Good morning. Happy Tuesday. What day is it? It's all kind of blending together here. Anyway, for the live this morning, I wanted to talk a bit about relationship and conscious connection and the different roles that people can play for us. So, I posted something yesterday talking about the idea or the quote from, I'm going to forget his name now, John Rohn, or I'm not sure if that's right. I'll have to check it. I can put it in the notes after. But he said that we are the average of the five people we spend the most time with. And I think this is something definitely worth sort of like taking a moment to look at. It's like, who are the five people in your life that you spend the most time with? And how does that influence who you are as a person and how you present yourself to the world? I think it's interesting to consider as well because some of these people are part of our lives and dominant parts of our lives by choice. So, whether significant others, close friends, some of them not necessarily by choice in the same degree. So, coworkers that you spend 40 hours a week with, you didn't necessarily choose them. They may be people who align really well with what you're aiming to do with your life and in life, or they may not be. It may just be somebody you got thrown next to on an assembly line, for an example. But it's interesting to kind of think about that and think about the differences in our world now, too, in the role that social media plays and the connections that we create that way, whether it is actually direct interactions with other people through social media or just by following. So it's like, how many different people influence us now because of the way we are all interconnected through Facebook, through Instagram, through YouTube. We have so much access to so much information and so many people. Are you being picky about what you're bringing in? That's a question I would invite you to explore for a little bit and see like what influences are you inviting into your world through the things that you choose to watch and connect with and the people that you choose to interact with through Facebook, through Instagram, the people that you follow. What are they sharing? Is it stuff that matches kind of the direction you want to go in life? Is it values that coincide with yours? Are there things that come up that challenge you as well so that you can grow and learn? Or are there things that you have people just because you feel like you should because they are family or you've known them for so long that they're still there, but when you actually kind of like take a look at what they're putting out there, you're like, no, no, this just doesn't work for me. Do you actually take that step to remove that influence or try and shift the way that influences you, or do you just let it keep kind of floating through in the midst of everything else? So, this is the idea, I think, behind conscious connection. It's like, are you consciously aware of the connections in your life and the types of connections that you want in your life? How do the people around you influence you? How do you influence them? Are you working together to rise and to grow and to be better versions of yourselves? Or do you spend time with people who tear each other down, tear other people down, and want to keep everybody where they are because they're comfortable in the familiar and they don't want things to change? Because that's a position that a lot of people end up in too, is that we get really comfortable in what we know and we're not willing to be uncomfortable. Where, unfortunately, our reality is like, if we want to learn and we want to grow, you have to get uncomfortable. You have to be willing to risk things not working out the way you're hoping they will. You need to be willing to take on failure as a way of learning and knowing that that's part of the process. It is all part of this process and part of this life, is that there are, it's that idea too. It's like people come into our lives for a reason, a season, or a lifetime. And I This also reminds me of the idea of like soul contracts, which I think is fascinating, is that there's this idea that we made deals with each other before we came into this life, that I will play this role for you if you play this role for me, so that we can learn these lessons to become higher, to ascend a little bit more. And whatever that looks like in the bigger picture outside of this life, because at this point in time, I have no idea. I have no knowledge, memory of what was before or what's coming after. And I think it's a fascinating idea where I think there's reasons in a bigger sense, potentially, as to why we go through certain things that we do and why certain people come into our lives where we look back and we're just like, wow, I should have seen all of those giant flashing red flags. But in that timing, that was not an option. Like I was not able to see those or not willing to see them. So I went through this experience with this person that in the moments and in the timing sucked. And it was awful and it was painful and it was this, that, and the other thing. But taking that moment now, I can look back and think, but these are the things I learned from that. I have become better as a person. I have learned how to develop healthier relationships from having unhealthy relationships. I have learned what I want from experiencing what I don't want. So, things to, again, like I said, just like consider and just kind of sit with and take a look at what's happening in your life right now. It's like, as I mentioned already, it's just like, who are the major influences in your life? And are they influencing you in a way that you want? And that, I think the other thing too is like giving ourselves permission to cut out toxic people, to cut off toxic relationships and connections with whoever it might be, whether it is this friend you've known since you were 5, family member, because that's one of the things that I always find interesting too, is the people who tend to argue that family is more important than anything because you share genetics. You are blood related, you have a genetic connection, so that is more important than anything. I think often don't have the healthiest relationship styles or those healthy conscious connections with people to be able to realize that it's like, no, that's not necessarily the most important thing. It's just like, are you good for me? Are you helping me? Are you helping me become a better person? Are you helping me become who I want? Do you support the dreams that I have as I support the dreams that you have, or not? And ending any relationship, even when you know it is exactly the thing that needs to happen, sucks. It still sucks. There's nothing that's ever easy about it. I have had friendships, like really what I thought were really solid, close friendships, fall apart over something that, from my perspective, seems really stupid. But the reality was the communication and this connection I thought was there was not. So we were not able to get back on the same page to move forward from what had happened. So it hit a point of just like, okay, I can't do this anymore. I need to walk away. And it sucked. And it still sucks. But that's part of life, is like relationships. All relationships have an expiry date. So it might be a lifetime. It might be when somebody passes on into whatever happens next. But often it's not. It is just a time period, could be years, could be weeks, could be anything kind of in between. And it's just, I think, being able to be present with the people in your lives and appreciate them for as long as you have them. And vice versa. It's just like to be that person that someone else can appreciate and benefit from having in their lives. So, yeah, those are kind of the thoughts I wanted to share today on our topics of like conscious connection and relationships. And I hope there were some useful tidbits in there for you. And we'll chat soon. Have a good day, guys. Bye.